Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q3 FY13 results conference call of Escorts Limited. As a reminder, for the duration of the conference, all participants' lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of today's presentation. Should you need assistance during the conference call, you may signal for an operator by pressing star and then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note, this conference is being recorded. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Raghavendra Jaipuria from Perfect Relations. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Lovina. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Escorts Q3 FY13 results conference call. Today we have with us Escorts senior management represented by Mr. Sridhar, CEO Escorts Agri Machinery, Mr. Murthy, CEO Escorts Construction Equipment, Mr. Dipankar Ghosh, Business Head Railway Products, Mr. Lalit Pawar, CEO Auto Products, Ms. Jyoti Khatuka, Head Treasury, Mr. Bharat Madan, CFO Escorts Agri Machinery, Mr. Saikat Mukhopadhyay, CFO Escorts Construction Equipment, and Mr. Rajiv Das, Vice President Corporate Affairs and Communication. Today we will start the call with the brief opening remarks from the management, followed by an interactive Q&A session. Before we start, I would like to add that some of the statements that we make today will be forward-looking in nature. At this moment, I would now request Mr. Rajiv Das to make his opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Raghavendra. Ladies and gentlemen, on this eve of our 67th Independence Day, our warm greetings to all of you and welcome you to joining us on Escorts Limited Q3 and 9-month FY13 earnings con call. We will take you through the operating performance at the group level and division-wise before opening the floor for the question and answer session. Ladies and gentlemen, this quarter the company has delivered significant results on the back of a very focused product strategy, operational efficiencies, cost and rationalization, and sales growth. At the group level, Q3 revenues are correspondingly up by 16%, and sequentially up by 17.5% as compared to Q2 of FY13. Q3 FY13 tractor volumes stood at 19,518 versus 16,083 in Q3 FY12, which represents a growth of 21.4% as against 14,764 in Q2 FY13, an increase of 32.2%. We have also done better on a 9-month basis too, with a growth of 7.7% versus last year. This improvement overall in the results is in no small measure to the material costs, which stood at 71.7% in Q3 as compared to 73.2% in Q3 FY12 and 72.2% in Q2 FY13. A significant improvement both on sequential and on corresponding basis. Our EPS for the quarter stood at 4.89 rupees as compared to rupees 1.57 in Q3 of FY12 and rupees 3.14 in Q2 FY13. On a 9-month basis, EPS stands at 10.4 rupees as that of 4.25 rupees last year. Profit after tax was up by 39.8 crores to 58.3 crores in Q3 FY13 as compared to rupees 18.5 crores in the same period last year. Sequentially also, it was up by 20.8 crores from 37.5 crores in Q2 FY13. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to turn to Escorts Agri Machinery division with a small snapshot. The growth seen this time was higher than expected on account of a good monsoon across the country, along with higher minimum support prices for crop and favorable government initiatives. Key states that supported this growth were Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Rajasthan. We remain strong in northern India as well as northwestern India as before. We are committed to continuously upgrade our portfolio, and with this regard, we plan to launch improved versions of our existing products in the coming quarters. The Ferrari tractor launched earlier this year saw a heartening response from professional farmers, and we now begin to see sustained demand emerging from this product. In order to expand our reach to customers, Escorts has continued to expand its dealer footprint across the country. This has also resulted in a favorable business performance at an overall level. Focusing on the profitability strategy, the company took 2 price hikes this calendar year, once in February and then again in May, backed by a response of its new products and enhanced dealer network. This was contrary to the discounting which other players resorted to and continue to do so in the last 2 months as well. We continue to diversify our offerings within the Agri division by initiating an entry in crop solution space. Within this, we will provide crop-centric mechanization services as we go down in the future. Historically, this quarter has been strong for us and we are able to capitalize upon this opportunity by initiatives as we have discussed above. We believe that innovative products catering to the needs of our customer, enhanced network and service, along with operational discipline which the management has initiated, will help us increase our foothold in this segment in the year ahead as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to turn to our construction equipment business. We are all aware of the challenges and repercussions faced in this construction industry in the form of a slowdown, regulatory restrictions, and the upcoming elections uncertainty, but we continue to invest in product and product development and continue our focus in rationalizing working capital management and other areas. Macroeconomic headwinds have impacted our growth this quarter as we sold 718 units versus 1,138 units last year and 1,113 units in the previous quarter. We have initiated a number of actions to enrich our product profile, streamline our sales and marketing network, and initiated several areas of value addition, value engineering, which we hope will result in a better performance in the months ahead. We hope that the recently set deadline by the Prime Minister's office for projects in key sectors of railways, roads and power will provide the much needed push in this sector. And this is the key to the growth of the infrastructure business in India, and we look forward to a much more healthier management of the infrastructure economy in the months ahead. Turning to the railway division, the order flow from railways continues to remain subdued. There has been no finalization of wagon orders from the board in 2012-13. Also, no major tenders have been floated for the coupler business so far. At Escorts, we are developing products for new generation rolling stock as we are seeing a decline for the old generation rolling stock taking place. The Escorts air brake system for the bogie-mounted brake systems has been performing well in the field since the last 7 months, and the commercial benefits will begin to accrue post the approvals which we shall receive in the middle of 2014. The performance for the railway products has been satisfactory this quarter with an income of 54 crores, a growth of 37% versus the corresponding quarter and 18% sequentially. At the EBIT level stands at 10.1%, which has expanded significantly by 247 basis points sequentially and by 803 basis points on a corresponding quarter-to-quarter basis. Our order book for this division as of 31st July stood at 51 crores, which will get executed in the next quarter. Turning to the Escorts Auto Products business, the automobile sector is reeling under the pressure of very high interest rates, diminishing spending, labor problems and regulatory burden which has led to sluggishness for the auto component manufacturers like ours. Suppliers to medium and heavy commercial vehicles and passenger vehicles have been impacted the most. In order to brace the slowdown, Escorts Limited will focus on the high margin products and customer segments to enhance profitability along with the increased focus on cost rationalization which has already helped reduce the material cost which is the major input for us. Income from this segment stood at 37 crores compared to 44.3 crores in Q2 and rupees 42 crores in Q3. Though we did see a positive swing of 73 basis points in EBIT margin in the 9-month period. Our continued focus on operational efficiency and profitability along with increased volumes, better product mix and cost rationalization has led to an improvement at the EBITDA level and margins too. When compared to as a percentage to sale, we have improved upon our raw material cost, employee expenses and other expenses. This has helped our margins expand by 256 basis points on a corresponding basis and 246 basis points sequentially. Discipline on external funds has led finance costs to come down when compared on a year-on-year basis and quarter-to-quarter basis to rupees 20.2 crores. Gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, we at Escorts will continue to focus on profitability, operational efficiency, along with identifying and catering the needs to our customers with new innovative products, which will help us carve out a niche within the sectors we are present in. This will be supported by an enhanced network and quality servicing to increase our footholding and position. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to open the floor for your questions to our management.
Thank you very much, sir. Participants will begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who has a question may enter star and 1. We have our first question from the line of Mr. Jay Kale from IDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
From IDFC. My first question is to Mr. Sridhar. Sir, just wanted to understand from you what would be the revised growth outlook for tractor industry for this fiscal that is starting from April to March 2014, and what are the chances of favorable moderation in demand going forward?
Okay, I think our operating period is October to September. So
yes, sir.
We were on this. See, before this, I just wanted to bring in one degree of caution. This would have seen even in the month of March, I think everybody in tractor industry was projecting a bleak picture. And suddenly this quarter, you see industry hitting something like a 26%. This is because the October-December quarter was something like a 4% growth. The second quarter was something like a minus 1% growth. And then we have hit a 26% growth. The reason for quoting this is very difficult to make a very summary projection on what will happen to future. Having said that, since we have faced a flat industry for almost 2 years, the revival, whatever is happening, is here to stay. Okay, this is the first confirmation I would like to make based on our assessment. Second is the projection of what should be the industry growth. Since the industry is almost growing with a 26% growth rate, which will mean this financial year is growing at 10%, it is very safe to assume that the next year's industry, that is October to September industry, also to grow at the rate of 10 to 12% kind of a growth rate. This, in my view, is a reasonable assumption.
Okay. And so what could be the possible upside or the downside risk to this particular growth in terms of any developments which could, in terms of which are closer to the election, which can really drive the growth upwards?
See, okay, since you are mentioning about elections, the first thing happens with the elections are the money flows. A lot of liquidity in the system. A lot of expenditure happens. This also triggers a lot of growth. This is what we have faced election after election, not only for tractors, generally for automobiles, all other consumer durables kind of a thing. Whatever is happening now is something on the reverse. The market is tight and the liquidities are being tightened, so the election-related signals are nowhere near to see. But having said that, monsoon is a big plus, and the customers are seeing a lot of water. So this generally puts the sentiment on the high. Second is the minimum support price. Since the support price is also supporting and the sentiment is also high because of monsoon, there is a big plus on the consumer, mindset side.
Correct.
So the government side, there is no big evidence of coming out of the way to support. So that is why a 10% to 12% kind of a thing is a very realistic kind of an expectation for the next financial year.
So there could be some upside risk to this number if there is some government support which comes in.
It can be, and the downside is if the liquidity is tightened that way, you will see it is not only cars and trucks and bikes. Everybody's market gets crippled. So that let us anticipate, because in my previous experience on the bike sector and other things, when the liquidity gets tightened, the whole industry's growth goes for a toss.
Correct. And sir, just if you can throw some light on the kind of growth on a state-wise basis or the key states, or rather not 1Q, but in the quarter so far, for the September quarter, how has been growth of which states have started to come back in the green and which are the states? You mentioned about few states doing extremely well. If you can just quantify that would be really good as to the top 5 performing states and the states which are laggard at this point of time.
No, but I think, see, this we cannot talk about the quarter because some of the states are doing well on a year-on-year basis and for something for almost for 18 months in a row. States like Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, they have been continuously doing very well. Now, good thing about what the discussion is, almost all the states are showing positive signs, excepting few belts like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and maybe part of Maharashtra. See, overall the country seems to be growing. That's a good sign. The aggressive growth where we should expect is possibly from the south and west. In states like Andhra, states like Maharashtra, the big growth will come from there because of two reasons. One is their basic infrastructure like credit, money, and all those things are generally very good. And these are all the states which have suffered also because of the poor monsoon for the last 1 or 2 years. So we should expect going forward the southern and western zones to do very well. Otherwise, generally, the whole of the India is almost on a revival mode.
Okay, great. And sir, just if you can quickly throw some color on your balance sheet in terms of what is the current debt, what you have on the books, and what is the kind of debt repayment roadmap you have, or the kind of target debt what you aim to have by end of this fiscal and end of next fiscal?
Okay, sure.
We have close to 400 crores of debt on the balance sheet, and roughly in terms of repayment, we have 70 to 80 crores repayment happening every year.
So 70 to 80 can't be any higher, sir, in terms of, I'm just wondering, can we repay the debt much more faster, given the kind of buoyancy what we're seeing in the business?
Yeah, that will take a call as and when the performance happens. So based on that, we'll take a call and we can always do that.
And any plans of any divestments or something like that?
Underway.
Sorry?
There are fresh capex also happening, there are projects underway. So in terms of overall debt situation, so even if we repay, so there will be fresh borrowing also happening. So overall, I think we will still remain in the level of 300 odd crores.
Okay. Fair enough, sir. Thanks a lot, and I'll come back in the queue for more questions.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from the line of Mr. Rishikesh Chopra from India Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. First of all, congratulations for the good set of numbers. My question is, although last year numbers were quite good, but there were concerns about the inventory build-up. So what is your take on that?
Inventory build-up. Inventory with the dealers.
Inventory with the dealers. This is specific to Escorts you are asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
About the sector numbers.
We have already answered. For example, this question we have answered in the last quarterly call also. See, we have not been building inventory. In the last 2 years, we were the first to drop the inventory. That means after that, what you call the quarter 1 of 11. Okay, we were the first to sense the downfall, and then we immediately corrected our inventory situation. So as far as our inventory with the dealer, it's a very stable inventory. This is what is minimum required, and that is what is being built. We do not have a situation of closing the tap and opening the tap suddenly, and that things we are not doing it. So the answer is, it's a very steady state inventory, neither less nor more.
Okay, so can you give me a number about it, what is the change from last quarter to this quarter in your inventory?
In terms of?
We remain in the level of 10 to 11 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks. That's the norm which we have been at. And this is including the advances what the dealer gave to the customers. So we remain in that range only. And the last quarter was same level, and this quarter also we not changed the level.
Okay. And one more question, there were, most of the analysts are feeling that there is no MRP on tractors. And we have also heard from Ministry of Heavy Industry that we are soon going to come up with a notification. So are you going to put any MRP on your tractors?
The voice is not coming clearly, ma'am. Is it to do with the notification from the Ministry of Heavy Industries? We couldn't catch the question.
Okay, actually the thing is there has been a concern that there is no MRP on tractors. And we have also heard from Ministry of Heavy Industries they are going to come up with a notification regarding that.
Okay. See, I think maybe we are not aware. But the current situation still continues to be a high intense competitive situation. So nobody sells on MRP. Everybody is selling on a discount. So this really doesn't alter the situation as on today.
But issue is also in terms of transparency what the ministry is trying to really put on the manufacturer. And from our perspective, and a lot of people in the industry, competition is also doing it. we are advertising a lot of prices in the market, in the newspapers, and in the NBFCs also are financing the tractor. There is an MRP which is already given to those NBFCs. So in terms of sharing the information, it's already there. So it's not that there will be any issue in terms of non-transparency. But yes, from ministry's perspective, when it comes, it's not going to affect the industry as such.
Okay, sir. And like, what is the, are you giving any current discount on the tractors? Like as Mahindra and Mahindra is giving 40,000 discount per tractor.
No. The simple answer to that would be no. We don't have a strategy to do any of that.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to all the participants, anyone who has a question may enter star and one. Our next question is from the line of Nishant Vyas from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. So my first question is in the farm equipment segment. Could you give us some kind of more detailed outlook as to what the crop solution business that you're trying to venture into, and what is the strategy, and how are you kind of building up will you increase your portfolio towards the farmer? Something on that? That would be my first question.
Okay. First and foremost, the crop solution story is a long-term strategy. When I'm saying long-term, I am meaning anything beyond 3 years and above. 3 years to 10-year outlook. When we are trying to do this, what we are trying to do is generally all the manufacturers sell equipment that goes with the tractors. That is the emphasis, like a rotavator and very many things that go with the tractor. In our case, what we have done is we start adapting it to crop. So this is what we call it as a crop-centric solution. For example, first crop what we have adapted is paddy. So this itself will call for something like a 9 to 10 equipment to give a complete solution. So we have tied up with the various manufacturers, best in the world, those kind of machines we adapt, and then we give it to the customers to experience it. So this is a very different way of doing it. The initiative was started something like 2 years back. Now there is something like 80% perfection and in terms of what exactly the solutions we are offering to the customer. This will lead into our developing that machine. Depending on the market demands, we will start manufacturing it, collaborate it, give solutions to individual customers on a lease basis, not in terms of owning it. So there is a host of actions around the crop solutions, but the entire action, the minimum time what you will see a tangible results will come after 3 years. So nothing you should expect immediately.
So sir, is my understanding correct? Will your trading component of the business increase because of this?
Trade in terms of?
Because you will not be producing these products. The other equipment that you don't produce will have to purchase and sell it in trading margins. Is that correct?
Of course, that will also be there.
Okay, so effectively that will be a margin dilutive to the core business.
Yeah, you can say that, but that will be a very temporary phenomena before the indigenization programs kick in and all of that happens.
But that would be at a later stage, sir, obviously, because at the start it will be more of a trading portion, right?
First thing is, assumption is we will not be making a lot of money.
No, I'm just typically, because this is.
I don't want to because it's not necessarily true.
Okay.
The size of the crop equipment is so small. The players who are operating, they are all actually making a big money.
Okay.
This is the correct situation. The business has to explode in terms of not 10 times, it has to explode to the 100 times. And then the money need to be made. So the crop solution as a subject itself is on the surface. We are just scratching the surface.
Okay.
So the technical answer to the question is, you will make money, but it is on the scratching the surface. So, see, since it's on the evolution stage, I don't want to discuss further, but it is to make a significant impact to the bottom line. It's a 3-year and onwards. It's nothing in the short term, actually.
Okay. So, sir, in terms of dealer network, there was something written on the dealer network in the press release. Could you tell me what is the current dealer network and what is the target for next 2 years?
See, the dealer network, we already have something like 700 dealers. We have added something like 200 dealers and then deleted something like 80 dealers in the last 2 years. So, one is appointing the dealer and then also bringing in the right quality of dealers. The emphasis is on the right quality of a dealer, and also a territory like South and West will become a focused territory with the kind of products what we are launching. So this will go hand in hand. Just by appointing a dealer, the assumption of selling more is an incorrect assumption. So we will be doing it as a package act.
Thank you, sir. A reminder to all the participants, anyone who has a question may enter star and one. We request participants to kindly limit their questions to one per participant. We'll take the next question from the line of Ms. Amitabh Sundharia from SKS Capital and Research. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Just a couple of quick questions. One is on your latest shareholding post-restructuring. So just clarify, what is the direct stake of the management and what is the breakup in terms of treasury stock and other stock held as part of the employees benefit trust, etc.?
I think you are aware that post the merger,
I think it's already available on the website. The shareholding breakup is given every quarter to the stock exchanges. The last June also gave intimated to stock exchanges.
Right. I just wanted, I have that breakup, but I just wanted to understand what is the, treasury stock versus what's the, management view on the current promoter holding in terms of direct holding and versus indirect holding, and what that would be. What would be the direct holding of promoters and indirect holding?
Do you have the numbers? See, the total shareholding for promoters is 42%, which includes the shares held under the trust.
Right. So who are the ultimate beneficiaries of that trust?
Escorts Limited is the beneficiary.
I'm sorry?
Escorts Limited is the beneficiary of that trust.
The company itself?
The company itself is the beneficiary, and the independent directors who are the trustees on the board or who are the trustees of this trust call the shots on this.
Okay, so
if you really look at
42%
holding that the promoters have, I think it will be in the region of 8 or 9%, and the balances in the trust of the trust that has been created on the treasury stocks.
So 9% is the promoter holding, and 31% is roughly the 32% is the
30% is the trust, and the balance 11-12% is the promoters.
Those are the ballpark numbers. I'm calling from memory now.
Yeah. So that's roughly the understanding I had.
That's right.
And thanks for confirming that. So the question really was that, so this, essentially this, as you said, Escorts Limited is the beneficiary of this 32% odd trust holding, which essentially, it's effectively treasury stock. Am I correct? Effectively, when a company owns its own shares, or the company is effectively the beneficiary, it's kind of like treasury stock.
Yeah, that was the intention.
That's right.
Okay. So, what I wanted to ask was, what is promoters effectively have, so treasury stocks belongs to the minority shareholders and the promoters in equal proportion. So, let's say, to the extent of promoter holding of 10% out of this 30, 10 is entitled. So promoters effectively hold 12% of the company. Is that correct?
I think ballpark, yes. I think it's around that number.
So what is your view on that, sir? How is the promoter interest aligned with that of minority shareholders then, with such a ridiculously low holding in the company? And, in the past also you've done a fair bit of, restructuring to further dilute the minority shareholders.
No,
maybe we can discuss this offline, because this is basically for the financial result, this concourse. So if you have these issues, maybe we can discuss separately.
Okay. No, I'll love to discuss that separately, but if you can just simply answer that, what is the, in terms of the treasury stock, what's the long-term solution to, is this, in management's opinion, will this remain the way it is?
Creating treasury stock was to create a war chest for any opportunity which just happens in the future, so we can use that stock at that point of time. So it will depend how the company performs going forward, so what is the value we have in that war chest, and what opportunity comes our way. So we'll take a call going forward based on that, maybe in next 4, 5, 10 years time, we don't know.
Okay. But at the moment, it's, in the foreseeable future, there's no intention of the management to increase their stake in the company directly or otherwise.
That's right.
Thank you. We have our next question from the line of Mr. Arvind Sharma from Citigroup. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for taking my question. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Good afternoon.
Thanks for taking my question, sir. Just one question. Looking at your agri-machinery products segmental results, there has been a significant uptick in terms of margins. So my question was, what is driving these margins? Is it mix, pricing, or cost pressures? And going slightly granular, what are the cost pressure scenario right now, and how do you think it will shape up going forward? Thank you.
Okay. I will answer like this. Because if you compare some 6 quarters back or 2 years back, it was something like a 6%. That's the kind of a margin we were making. We are currently at 10% maybe for the 9 months and maybe at 11.5 times for the quarter. So to that extent, we have almost close to near doubling of our EBIT margins. Now, the way we have done is, in a way generic, we squeezed a lot of cost structure. We have seen all these things. We already shared it before. This is nothing new. And also we talked about increasing our pricing. So you would have just heard this. When nobody has increased the price in the last 6 months or 8 months also, we went ahead and increased by 9,000 rupees. 2,000 rupees in the month of February and another 7,000 rupees in the month of May. So 9,000 rupees is a pretty sharp price increase we took. Okay, this is the first action. And also somebody was asking this question, when the competitor is reducing the price by 40,000 rupees, what exactly we are doing? We have not responded it. Okay. We were, in fact, if you ask me, we were even letting our market share go by 0.2 and 0.3%, but not resorting into actions like responding to whatever if I am to say, the pricing pressures imposed by competition. Now, how exactly we have achieved this in terms of pricing power? You would have seen the cost compressions through material costs and all other things we already discussed. In pricing power, whichever category we are operating, say like a C category, which is the largest category, 30% of our segment is from C category, which is something like 35 to 40%, 40 horsepower category. 50% of our volume will be coming from a model which is the most or the very high priced model for the segment, which we call 439 DS Plus. This is the most expensive model, and that model contributes something like 50% of our price. In other words, it is not only our explicit strategy is to target the E and E plus category for leadership. Within the high volume category also, our models are priced very high. And we want to be seen that way, we will stick to that. This is where when we are saying that profitability is our obsession, this is the demonstration of the route what we are taking it. Now, when the industry is reviving, there is an opportunity for everybody. Those who want to target the largest number can target, those who wanted to target market share can target, whereas the Escorts wants to target the profitability. How can we move ourselves forward? The direct benefit is in terms of margins, indirect benefit is in terms of imagery. I think for us, these two are most important guiding principles, and this is the way we will proceed further. I hope I have answered your question, actually.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Silky Jain from Nirmal Bang Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Sir, can I get the capex plan for the company for this particular year as well as FY14?
So this year we are expecting the year to end with a capex of roughly 100 crores.
Okay.
And the similar number for next year also 100 to 120 for all the business put together.
Okay. And so you were talking something about the HP-wise distribution of tractors. So is it possible that we get the percentage as in how much is in 30 to 40 or 40 plus and 50 plus HP tractors?
See, this they should access through TME only.
This Tractor Manufacturers Association puts out these numbers. Right now, it's not on my table, but I can email this to you.
Okay, sir. And sir, one more thing, if you could just tell us how much were the sales for the Ferrari and Farmtrac Executive?
See, the Ferrari is targeted not on the mass, obviously, because for a compact tractor or a 25 horsepower tractor or the vineyard tractor, the price what Ferrari charges is near double that of the nearest competitor. Say, for example, Kubota or any other model. So, it will be double the price.
Okay.
Important is the kind of an imagery rub-off it creates for Escorts, because our objective is to bring in many such brands, okay, which will be giving this kind of an imagery rub-off on leadership. Now, our plan of a Ferrari kind of a model is to sell something like 100 in a year, in a given packet. I think we have already exceeded 50 kind of a number. Now, right now, I think customers are put on a booking, so it costs for some import and So this is the kind of a response. That means the target number of 100 in a year, what we wanted to set out, it looks like we'll be exceeding those kind of a numbers.
So this 100 target was for the calendar year, right?
Right. Our calendar year, Escorts calendar.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Mr. Samir Deshpande from Fairdeal Investments. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, all of you.
Good afternoon, Samir.
The results are really excellent, and the company seems to be on a very good, vibrant growth momentum, and particularly our agri-machinery business. And as our conference calls have progressed for last 3-4 times, I have seen a lot of things which the company has been taking, initiatives the company has been taking, are resulting in good profits. And the margins for the segment margins for agri-machinery are 11.65, which is really worth congratulating you all people for the efforts. And despite the tremendous competition prevailing and the industry trends which seem to have changed for the better now, I think we can capitalize well on that. My question is, our total volumes last year were some 58,000. This year we expect to grow around 10 to 12%. So we will be something like 66,000 maybe in volumes. So this still constitutes only 55% of our capacity utilization. And secondly, we also have diesel engines which we use in our tractors. That diesel engine spare capacity, I think, is also substantial. So how are we planning to use these spare capacities? Because when these spare capacities get used by even 10-20%, our margins can easily cross 10% or 11% for the entire blended margins. Particularly agri-machinery can grow substantially higher and other also. So please elaborate on that.
Okay. Thanks for your kind words. First, see, we have certain guiding principles for our company. First and foremost, the demand, we should not chase this capacity. Utilizing capacity is not the obsession. This is, in our view, it's an yesterday's model. Create capacity and then utilize capacity, and that as a basis for creating profit, in our view, is not the correct view. So first is we will generate a demand and a profitable segment, sustainable demand, and those kind of a demand creation is what we will create, and the capacities will chase the demand, not the vice versa. See, the reason for mentioning this is the way Escorts will proceed in the future, not the way we have operated in the past. Okay, this would mean that the current capacity may be relevant, may not be relevant. Because when I'm saying not really relevant, because the kind of a product you'll be needing is a very high technology, different kind of a product with a different fit and finish, different Italian designs what we are trying to introduce. Or tomorrow it is products like Ferrari, if the volume supports it can even assembly. So what is most important is our aligning with highly profitable future segments. So this is what we are going to do. As far as engine capacity is concerned, the current, the way I have said, current capacity, excess capacity in the market and so much of a competition intensity, the pricing pressure is immense. So even in engine area, where we do not see that kind of a margin, like a 10 or 11% margin, we just do not participate in those kind of a competition. So these are all certain internal disciplines we have brought in among ourselves, and then we will start looking forward. Where there is a space, non-competing space, profitable space, that will become our governing principle. And our hope, with the industry also moving further, there is enough space to reasonably utilize the capacity the way we wanted to grow the market. Hope I have answered your question.
Thank you, sir. We have a next question from the line of Mr. Riken Gopani from Infina Finance. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi. Congratulations, sir, for a great set of results. Sir, I just wanted to understand more on the agri-business margins. One is, given the kind of strong volume growth that you all had, the leverage on the other expenditure doesn't seem to have come, and the other expenditure has grown almost like 35% Y-on-Y. If you could highlight what are the various pressures that you have seen there, and what improvements that can be seen going ahead.
See, on the cost side, since you yourself said the volumes have gone up, there are a lot of variable costs in the systems, which also goes up with the volumes. When you look at the cost going up by 30-35%, so that's also because the volume has gone up accordingly. So overall, if you look at percentage to sales, overall cost, whether it's a person cost or it's a selling arrangement cost, so both have come down.
Mm-hmm. What I meant is that there should have been some leverage that you could have got on the other expenditure with such a large volume expansion.
That leverage is represented in a rebate margin, which has gone up by 3%. That's the leverage.
Okay. Because
the last quarter, it was around 8.5%. Current quarter, we are looking at 11.5 plus. So you've seen the cost management on 1.5% will be that effect. Yeah, and easily, maybe 1 to 1.5%, maybe a little more will be on account of that. Right. Not to mention the raw material cost management, which has been where the initiatives have borne a lot of fruit, a lot of work happening there, since that's the largest chunk of cost in any case.
Okay. That brings me to the next question. How are you seeing the raw material scenario panning out, and have we seen most of the improvements come through, or you see further improvements and any internal exercises that should further help you improve on the costs on the raw material side?
One is it's the external situation. Number two is how do we internally improve the processes and how do we work. As far as internal goals are concerned, we have a much steeper goal to cut down the material costs for existing products. So that's a part of our 3-year plan. For example, from something like a 71.5% where we are today, we wanted to reach something like 68%.
Okay.
This is a goal. As I said, we have to work a lot of initiatives on this, just in time and very many management and in massive inventory reduction. A lot of things are going on. Also, the fact is the overall industry is not doing well. So that is also giving us an advantage. So both together is the benefit what we are deriving.
Okay. The other question is to understand what has happened on the export side. What proportion of our tractors are now exports, and what's the outlook there?
I think like exports, let me tell you that I think what we have done so far is closer to nothing actually. All that we have done in the last 1.5 years is to set our house in order when it comes to domestic business is concerned. We are clear which segment to operate, which product to offer, what price points, how exactly is happening. Still markets like Andhra and Maharashtra we are yet to crack. So there is an agenda for the India is what is set in place. As far as exports are concerned, the strategy level working was started something like 2 quarters back. Today we are fairly clear on what should be our approach. Having said that, between the approach and realization, it's still 1 year away for me. That means at least it will take 4 to 6 quarters in terms of what exactly will happen. Now, having said that, if you are to have some insider view of what exactly our export strategy, you are most welcome to our Germany conference in November 11th, where we will unveil our global strategy for Escorts Crop Agri-Machinery Division.
Okay.
That's a very significant event, and we invite you there. Hanover Agri Technica on the 10th of November to the 16th of November is where we will afford ourselves the opportunity of unveiling our global platform and our global brand connect. Most welcome to come and visit our press conference and our product display and our visibility on our Europe and North America strategy.
Okay. Great, sir. Great. And the other point is also on the railway side, just wanted to get your thoughts. There has been a significant improvement in terms of both top line and the margins. If you could highlight how would the next year pan out in this division, and is this improvement sustainable?
This is Dipankar. Yes, this improvement is sustainable, but we will not see any major increase out there, because most of the products, we have launched few new products, but as you would appreciate, our railway goes for an 18-month validation period, so most of our new products are in the validation cycle. So we expect them to actually be on commercialized only by end of 2014. So we would not see a major upstart for the railways. But yes, going forward, we see a very bright future for the railway division.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gopani, may we request you to come back in the queue for any follow-up questions?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. We have our next question from the line of Mr. Bharat Kyani from Sharekhan. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Congratulations on a good set of numbers. I just wanted to ask, I just wanted to get a flavor on your regional mix, how it was 3 years back and how it has been today. Like the southern market, the market share was less. So if you could just give me a flavor on your regional market share as of today.
Okay, I will. Why 3 years? You can even take it as 6 years and 8 years. In the regional mix, there is no change. We are predominantly a north-based company. The weak spots remain as south and west. This situation almost 6 or even I can even say 10 years. There is nothing has changed. Our market share and those kind of zones are something like a 3 or 4%, as against something like 14 to 15% types in the area where we are strong. This is the gap today. Having said that, now that we have to start making some money, we should expect actions maybe from next year onwards. Since this is highly strategic, I am not in a position to discuss further. It is again a 3-year action plan. So what didn't happen or 10 or 20 years cannot happen in few quarters and few years. All that what I am confirming is the way we have put the product strategies in place. Slowly start anticipating market strategies also to be put in place, starting with 1 or 2 states from next financial year onwards. Beyond that, I would like to refrain from discussing further on this.
Okay, fair point, sir. Just one more question, like if I could get a mix as our strategy is targeting the higher HP range. So just wanted to get like what is our contribution of the overall volumes from the above 40 HP space now, and how was it say 2 to 3 years back?
I have explained this. Once again, I will just say that. See, for example, E and E plus category. This is the top. See, we have some A plus, B, C, D, E, E plus. Like this, the category goes in tractor industry. But within that E and E plus category is considered as a higher end category. In that E category, for example, Escort's average market share is 20%. Okay? E plus is in category, we are almost like a 5 to 6%. So our explicit strategy is to become a leader in these 2 categories over a period of 3 years. This is what we have been disclosing in various other analyses. Our internal target, if I am to say, is to touch something like a 33% market share in this E and E plus category within 3 years. So this will give not only the money and also the kind of imagery rub off what we are looking for. Having said that, another important category, the way you talked about, is C category. C category is another area which contributes close to something like 27 to 30% kind of a market share. Within that category, whichever portfolio which Escorts is presenting, which we call Power Track and all those things, 50% of our portfolio is the most high-priced portfolio within the C category. So this is the way we target markets and then we develop it.
No, I just wanted to get a sense, like, not about the market share. I just wanted to get in the overall proportion of your of the Escorts volume, what would E and E plus category currently contribute in terms of your overall volumes? Just a mix. I'm trying to just get a sense of your mix currently.
I will give 50%.
Okay, 50% is currently contributed by E and E plus category. Okay, and sir, what was this proportion 2 years back, 2 to 3 years back?
I don't have the ready data.
Just a ballpark number, sir.
Should be around that. It should be something like a 17-18% effect.
Sorry?
If you look at it historically,
okay.
Maybe historically means 15 years back.
Oh.
We had a market share of something like a 40-45% in this category.
Okay.
Look at it that way, it was our category. Okay. We lost to many of the multinationals. Now the climb has become steep because for some time we were not doing well. So now we have to climb back and reclaim whatever was our rightful market share once upon a time. That's why an objective of something like 33% kind of a market share in 3 years.
Okay. Fine, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Our next question from the line of Vasudev Banerjee from Quant Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, sir, for taking my question and extremely good set of numbers. A couple of things. One is, sir, if I look at your fixed cost per unit on a QOQ basis, specifically if I take staff cost and other expenses as the fixed cost, broadly remaining non-variable, your EBITDA per unit saving QOQ is around 29,000, which is somewhere around more than 5% of sales. So that one can say that it contributed significantly to the margin as volume moved up from 14,700 to 19,500. Now coming the July volume, which was around 4,500, and if that kind of sub 5,000 run rate continues for the coming quarter, so overall volume coming back to say March quarter territory, how can one can assess the risk that fixed cost per unit will go back to March quarter levels and margins will again go back to the square levels?
See, coming specifically to your manpower numbers, now when the volumes grow up, now you look at the present scenario where the production is there is a set of regular employees who are working there with the average cost of worker today is about 40,000. And versus that, when the volume go up, you hire casual worker, the average cost is today 10,000 rupees. So obviously when the volumes go up, you'll get those synergies, so you will hire casual people and your average cost, manpower cost per tractor will go down. But when you go back to the same level of numbers, then obviously the cost will again go back.
So now, where do you see the volumes broadly in the coming few quarters post the good set of monsoons now?
See, this we have, as I said, this is a huge guess when we are making it on the industry. Having said that, we said a 10 to 12% kind of a growth rate for the next financial year is a reasonable assumption. You can expect Escorts, as I said, we wanted to be choosy on which segments we want to participate and what we are wanting to do. Having said that, broadly you should expect us to be on par with the industry.
Sure. And one more question, sir. If I look at your quarterly interest outgo is somewhere around 20 crores. And as per your March balance sheet, your short-term borrowing and long-term borrowing combinedly was somewhere around 400-450 crore. So it signifies cost of debt significantly high. So am I missing out somewhere?
This is the total finance cost. What you are calculating is the interest cost on borrowing. You have non-fund-based utilization like LC, BT and bank charges. So the finance cost includes all that. So when you just compare interest on borrowing, that's not a true comparison.
Pardon me, ma'am, it was not audible.
Ma'am, your volume is very...
Just 1 second, we are responding to that. Just 1 second.
What you are comparing is the interest cost on the borrowing. And the number 21 odd crore is the total finance cost.
Sure.
Includes my non-fund-based utilization like my LC or BG or my bank charges also. So a comparison in net to net, if you take 400 crore of borrowing and you compute the interest cost, that will appear to be very high. It's not a true comparison.
So how much of this 20 crore quarterly is allocable to the long-term?
The borrowing cost you can assume is around, term borrowing is around 13.5%.
Okay. And any short-term debt in the other current liability line item of your balance sheet?
That would be the debt repayable in next 1 year is taken as a current liability.
How much is the quantum, madam?
It would be something around 80 odd crore.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am. That's all from my side.
Thank you. We have a next question from the line of Mahantesh Sabrat from Fortune Equity. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. This pertains to your vast margin improvements that you have demonstrated on the tractors. I know we have discussed in part related to that, and you explained that it's primarily the price increase on tractors that has contributed to this improvement. But then with 10 to 12 weeks of stocks that you seem to have right now, is there an oncoming discounting pressure? Number one, that's what I wanted to understand. And two, what are the material cost pressures that you are witnessing? So there seems to be virtually no increases on the material cost front.
See, on the stock side, what we said with the dealers, from the 10 to 12 weeks also includes advances. See, in this tractor industry, there is a unique trend where the customer is advanced a tractor, and based on that, half the sale is already happened. So, the only thing is not treated as a closed sale. Now, 8 weeks of inventory actually is lying in the advances, which is already sold tractor scenario. But we call it...
Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't understand.
See, the total 10 to 12 weeks inventory also includes the advancing which happens in the trade, in tractor industry. So where the dealer gives advance tractor to the customer without invoicing. But practically the sale is already closed. So most of the advances actually turn into the retail sale. So 90% success rate is there. So that inventory is already sold. So practically dealer has physical inventory of only about 4 weeks, which is not a huge inventory at all. Which is a normal trend for us. So on the stock side, we don't see a pressure coming in for discounting because of that reason.
And what if there is a default on those advances?
But like I said,
does that fall back on Escorts as a company, or the dealer absorbs it, or the financier of the dealer absorbs it?
Dealer gives tractor to the customer. They normally take their land papers or other mortgage papers from the customer. So the chance of default there is very, very low. That's why I say the success rate for that advances converting into retail is 90% plus.
10% NPA is still a very large number, sir. Banks work.
10% of advances is a normal trend in the industry which is already happening. There's nothing new which is going to happen now.
Okay, so you are in short suggesting no discounting pressure is being seen ahead.
Not in our case at least. We can't tell about the industry, other competitors, what their levels are. But at least in our level, that is not the case.
And what is the raw material cost pressure for you?
See, as of now, because the slowdown in the industry overall, we are not facing any pressure from any of the suppliers. So we don't foresee also that pressure coming at least in the next 6 to 9 months. Unless things really go out of sync and suddenly the demand picks up. So as of now, we don't see those pressures coming in and building up.
The other query I had is that based on the segmental results that you have provided and assuming that the agri revenues pertain to tractors alone, and then the average realizations seem to have dropped sequentially. So from 5,12,000 odd to about 5,06,000 odd per tractor.
About 6,000 rupees drop because of product mix. Because the corresponding decrease has happened in the material cost also.
No, that doesn't seem to be the case because your EBIT per tractor has vastly improved. Because on an incremental sales, when I go from sequentially, the new tractors that you seem to have sold for the quarter is at an average of 4,88,000, which is far lower than what is your average rate. So that means the mix has apparently deteriorated. And yet you have seen a substantial increase in EBIT margin. So somehow can't seem to understand this.
Okay, let me explain this. See, we have talked about two things on pricing power. One is we said we will target segments like E and E+. Okay? The second one also I said the largest segment is say for example C category, which is the 30% of the industry. Within that also I said we introduced a model which contributes 50% of our portfolio is the high-priced model within that industry. The highest priced tractor in the largest segment, C category, belongs to Escorts today. That also gives you a lot of money. I cannot put out the precise money. There is a huge improvement in what we call PowerTrack kind of a brand, which is 439. I said 439 DS Plus kind of a model. So this model, even though it is not a E or E Plus category, but a C category model, but the margins have shot up. Am I making myself clear?
And the price positioning or the premium positioning that you're taking on this particular model will give you what kind of advantage? 10,000 rupee advantage or is it 50,000 rupee advantage?
See, that I don't want to disclose, but it is substantial.
Then that brings me to the question that is this positioning going to remain sustainable, because the competitors will come in with their own models there to take the price as an advantage.
See, that is the challenge of being in business. Nothing is static. Everything will get questioned. As I said, having said that, people have got certain approach, philosophy or a guideline what they have. Somebody targets overall volume. Somebody targets only the profitable slice of within the segment. Somebody slices only on E or E+. MNCs have a different way of approaching subject. There is a unique position for each one of these companies. And we said Escorts targets profitable slice within the segment is our way. Okay. This is what we said is the way we are governed by. Hopefully the same thing you may not hear from Mahindra. Mahindra may be targeting a very different cup of tea. So each company has got their own way of approaching business. And this is why you would have seen in our notes, profitability will remain as our obsession for some more years to go.
Mr. Mahentesh, may we request you to come back in the queue for any follow-up questions?
And it's not a follow-up, it's the response to his question. So I just wanted to understand, are you suggesting, sir, that for the next 3 years you would continue to maintain 11%, 12% kind of EBIT margins on tractors?
No, but certainly that is not our target. Our target is to move up further and further. Whatever we are discussing now, these are all in public domain. 1.5 years back itself, we said that in a period of, say, like 3 year or 4 year, we will touch something like a 15% kind of an EBIT margin. And now the evidence what you are seeing quarter after quarter is the movement towards it. Now we are only asking, giving you the rationale on how do we move it. That's all. But otherwise, our management objective is to reach something like a 15% EBIT margin in 2 years from now.
Fine, sir.
Before
Fine.
that.
Thank you very much. My questions are over.
Thank you, sir. We have our next question from the line of Sunil Jain from Nirmal Bang Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jain.
My question mainly related to your construction division. The sales has come drastically lower. No doubt the environment is not so great in this particular segment. But how you see this going forward? How much more downfall we can see in this from here? And how we are trying to keep ourselves a bit away from what is happening in the market?
Mr. Jain, Saikat here. The market, as we look at it from here till the general elections, look to be pretty static at this point of time. And the numbers currently that we are doing, we expect, this is the bottom that has happened, hopefully. Nothing below this. But we are confident that the current volumes that we are having will continue till the next, till the announcement of the elections. And therefore, from there onwards, we see a growth story happening from there.
Okay. And is there any cost cutting possible because the EBIT margin in this particular division has come quite low at this time?
Mr. Jain, we are working significantly on it. And if you look at, compare it from the last financial year, we did have significant achievements as far as in the variable cost is concerned, as well as the fixed cost is concerned. And our journey in that direction continues to, optimize our costs. So we are pretty much on that activity. And if you compare it from a year-on-year basis, our costs have significantly come down, or at least not significantly. Major part of it is under control.
Okay. And sir, about another segment that is auto ancillary. No doubt we were seeing some improvement in last 2 quarters. This quarter again, the pressure has come. Can you throw some more light on it? What's our strategy in this?
See, the auto industry, the auto OEM industry, and therefore the component industry has seen one of the toughest years in the last decade. In fact, if you see industry leaders, they are saying they've never seen such a bad year in recent history. But so you have to see our performance in that backdrop. We've been holding on to our top line, in fact, improving a little, and also the bottom line. So as soon as the industry turns the corner, there will be a significant upside both in the top line and bottom line.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Kiran Chheda from ValueQuest Research. Please go ahead.
So, if I heard correctly, you said that the industry is growing at about 26% in the tractors.
Yeah, we talked about quarter 3, not growing at this. This is 1 quarter. Previous quarter, it was minus 1%.
Yeah, quarter. But our sales seems to have grown only by 21%. So, where is the disconnect?
No disconnect. This is our choice.
Okay, so we have grown slower than the industry.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. All right.
If it is so, let it be. We are wanting to pick and choose on the segment and the price where we wanted to grow. Certain price, we participate certain segments, we wanted to grow it in that way. What has happened? Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you.
So, that's our approach.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Viraj Kacharia from Securities Investments. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my questions. I just had a question on the agri business. I mean, initially we had 3 plants and then we now operating out of 2 plants. So, What's your view on the third plant? Are we trying to monetize it, or if you could just provide some color on that?
See, right now what we are trying to do is from the point of view of waste elimination, duplication elimination, movement elimination, we are trying to bring in a highest of productivity level with a lot of emphasis on outsourcing. This is an obsession with which we are doing. Now, what to do with the plant? We will decide on what more to do. There are a lot of opportunities knocking at our door, what kind of possibilities, what kind of other businesses which are allied to agriculture. Opportunities are there, but we will take it as and when we are ready for it. So as I said, there's many experiments are on. Certain things are close to completion, certain things are on the preliminary stage. So how to use this is still 1 year away. But as of now, the consolidation as a means of reducing unnecessary cost in the system. That's an approach we are taking it.
Okay, and just one last question was on the crop solutions. You said that you will be focusing on the implements and the equipment in the crop solutions. So is it that the only part, or are you trying to also expand or further move into the agri value chain from a long-term perspective?
I'm sorry?
I mean, from the crop solution, when you say, are you trying to move further into the agri value chain, or what kind of products are you looking at?
See, the way I have explained is generally the tractor manufacturers take the approach of put the tractor in the center, and the equipment that will go with the tractor is the way they all sell their equipment. In our case, instead of putting tractor in the center, we put the crop in the center. That means we put a paddy, and there are 10 set of equipments that will help the paddy into what we call end-to-end solution. It is from a tilling to the level of baling, harvesting. There are a lot of equipments are there. Now we are mastering that total solutions through various collaborations, various arrangements, so that the customer can experience a complete mechanization experience. Having said that, today we are almost 1.5 years old. Still it is 3 years to go before we make a very meaningful impact on our balance sheet.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Mr. Kaushik Poddar from KB Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
From whatever I heard from you people, it seems the tractor division will be the only driver for profitability. Do you agree with this comment?
Well, significantly, we would have to say yes for the near term.
Yes.
Till we see the improvement in the infrastructure side and on the auto component side.
See, let me add a little more.
Yes.
Within that agri machinery also, you would realize strategy is our ace. We know how to take these things and then crack it. Otherwise, this kind of a magical jump of something like as low of 4 to 5% EBITDA becoming 12% EBITDA in 2 years is impossible. The similar thought, similar ideas, is being exercised in our infrastructure division. Maybe they will take a couple of more years, but directionally they are not very, very different. So what we are perfecting in one division is what we should expect you in the other division. In terms of time, of course they are lagged by 1.5 to 2 years. In terms of impact, the impact what you are seeing in the tractor division, the similar impact is what you should expect in the construction equipment with a lag time of 1.5 to 2 years.
So does that mean that you're looking at premium positioning in the other sectors as well?
I think you have guessed it, hopefully rightly so. But see, the way we are talking about tractor division, it's sealed, frozen, practiced. So we are sharing with you.
Absolutely. We can see the result. So what you are saying that the same kind of premium positioning strategy will play out in the probably 3 or 4 quarters from now. That's what you are saying?
Exactly. But only thing is we cannot disclose more. Please anticipate the similar such maneuvers in construction equipment as well.
No. I understand your line of thinking. That's all I'm looking for. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a last question from the line of Mr. Nishant Vyas from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Sir, I just wanted the specific utilization levels in the other businesses.
What utilization level? Sorry, I didn't get the question.
The utilization levels in the other businesses other than the farm businesses?
Other than farm,
you were talking about capacity utilization?
Yeah, capacity utilization levels.
ECE right now, I think would be abysmally low compared to, we've got a plant, I think, which can do 8,000 machines a year. We are probably doing
600 per month, so about 8,000 per annum. Currently, we would be doing about, say, 50% or so.
Okay, in the RED business? In the railway equipment business?
So the railway equipment business, we are somewhere in the range of 50 to 60% utilization. We are expecting new products to kick in, which we have already introduced to railways, and they are under the product validation and evaluation stage. So next year or so, we should be able to take it up much more higher.
Okay. Sir, also I had one last question on the tax rate. What do you see is for the annual basis, what kind of tax rate should we kind of envisage for the company and maybe for next year also? And do we have any tax benefits that we are availing?
We have the R&D benefit which we get, so plus whatever carry forward losses are there, but effectively you can take 20 to 22% as the effective tax rate for this and next year.
Sir, for this, effectively for quarter 4, you will have a significantly higher tax rate if you have an annual tax rate of 20%.
I think you take the 20-22% as effective tax rate because of the tax benefit which you get on R&D. There is a 200% rebate we get on R&D expenses.
Okay.
And if the last quarter, you see in the March quarter, we had got the 2 years benefit coming, but the approval came from the government only in the March quarter, which when we took this benefit. So that's why our tax rate there was negative actually.
Okay.
Going forward, we are taking, assuming this rate of 20 to 22%. We'll continue.
Okay, fine. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Participants, that was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Rajiv Das for closing comments.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for being with us today. To put it on a lighter note, we have exciting times ahead and for all our businesses. But let me, on behalf of Escorts Limited and its senior management team, assure each and every one of you that you are more than welcome to reach us for any queries, information that you would like, or you'd like to visit our plant, or you'd like to have greater understanding on our enfolding strategy across our 4 businesses. You are more than welcome to reach me or to come down to Faridabad at any time. And having said that, I once again, on behalf of Escorts, thank you for your patient listening and for your time, and all the very best for the coming Independence Day.
Thank you very much, sir. Participants, with that we conclude the conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.